Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Naquan, watching for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Wamalak Yahushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Yahushai. A hearty shalom to all you mighty men that go out there and labor and do the work of the Most High, presenting your body as a living sacrifice, and doing all things for the elect's sake, pushing this truth and magnifying the ministry. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, fasting, studying, being diligent, and abounding in the work of the Lord. Right? Shalom to all of the Akwath out there. Hold it down in the households. Moving in the spirit of the righteous foremothers. We back at it again. This is from Haritz.com. You can look into it, right? What you're looking at on your screen. Israel orders 45 black Hebrew Israelites to leave country in 60 days. The so-called white man, right, who is pretending to be the true Israelite, has now sent out an unrighteous decree. And we're going to get all these precepts to forcibly, well, he's telling them to move out in 60 days. You have to leave. Now, we don't know what's going to happen after these 60 days. If they don't leave in these 60 days, are they going to be forcibly removed? Are they going to incarcerate and lock these people up and throw them in some pit, some dungeon, right? Are they going to kill these people, right? Is there going to be a media blackout? What is going to happen to the black Hebrew Israelites that do not comply to the decree given out by the so-called white man, right? Now, this number is 45, right? They say 45 black Hebrew Israelites. And first of all, we're not black Hebrew Israelites. We are the Israelites, according to the Bible, right? We are the children of the promise. We literally descend from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob by nationality, right? The word nationality goes back to the Latin word natus, which means who? Your forefather that gave birth to you. So our forefather literally is Israel, right? The so-called white man, they come from Esau. But we all know that history that they were given that land in the late 1940s by the United Nations, right? Which is a global deception to have the masses of people believe that these people are the real Jews, right? So Israel orders 45 black Hebrew Israelites to leave country in 60 days. Thinking of a few precepts, right? And that's Bible prophecy. You may say, well, that's strange. There's nothing significant about that. That happens all the time. No, this is prophecy, and these things are being repeated over and over, right? Here's the first precept I want to get on, right? This is not going to be too long. This Acts chapter 18 and 1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them. So back in the ancient times, you had Emperor Claudius, who actually sent out a decree that all Jews have to leave Rome. They were banished from Rome. Why? Due to the amount of hysteria, supposedly, that the Jews were causing, or what they would call as Christians. You know, when you go to Acts 11 and 26, the people called as Christians. And the Christians were looked at as a cult or a modern day hate group. So they expelled the Jews out of Rome, right? This Acts 11 and 26. And when he had found him, right, when Paul found Barnabas, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. So in these different Roman provinces, you had Israelites that followed Hamashiach Yahushai. They were called Christians, or the anointed ones, right? Or the ones that pertain to Christ, right? Christ means the anointed one. The suffix IAN meaning pertaining to. So these are the ones to what? Who pertain to Hamashiach Yahushua, who followed the doctrine, who believe in the Most High through his son Yahushua. They were called Christians first in Antioch. These same Christians caused an uproar out in the time of Claudius, right? Now, I also want to go to the book, and you can look that history up on your own, right? Let's see if we can actually, get that history. All right, let's go to that. Acts 18. I'm just going off the spirit. Right? See if we can get the history on that. It's like I said, we're not connected to the internet. Okay, bear with me. Right? Okay, so bear with me. Okay, check this out. Since the Jews constantly made disturbances at the instigation of Christus, that's really the way of saying Hamashiach Yahushua, Christ, but it says Christus. He, the Emperor Claudius, expelled the Jews from Rome. The expulsion event Suetonius refers to is necessarily later than AD 41 and earlier than AD 54. The expulsion is mentioned in the last quarter of a list of Claudius' actions during his reign. See that? Now this is from the Divius Claudius 25. It mentions the agitations by the Jews. So basically, what's happening now, how we agitate this society, we're out there in the highways and byways, we're publicly preaching, we're the new menace to society, we're public enemy number one, we're disturbing the peace by telling the devils they're going into slavery, by telling this place they're going to be destroyed, by condemning the wicked and justifying the righteous. This is what the so-called white man calls agitations, right? Quote unquote, right? Since the Jews constantly made disturbances, again, at the instigation of Christus, he, Emperor Claudius, expelled them from Rome, right? Let's see. The expulsion event Suetonius refers to is necessarily later than AD 41 and earlier than AD 54. The expulsion is mentioned in the last quarter of a list of Claudius' actions during his reign, right? We just read that. However, precisely dating the expulsion from Suetonius provides some challenges because Suetonius writes in a topical rather than chronological fashion, necessitating the use of other texts to pinpoint the time. The dating of the Edict of Claudius for the expulsion of Jews relies on three separate texts beyond Suetonius' own reference, right? Which in chronological order are the Acts of the Apostles, and you can read this on your own in other history, right? But the point I wanted is, the so-called white man, there's nothing new with them kicking you out of lands and banishing you. A banishment is an ancient form of punishment, right? But before they had a massive industrial prison complex, before they had these strange punishments and of lethal injection and solitary confinement, banishment was a heavy thing in the ancient times. Napoleon was banished. John from the Isle of Patmos, John from Slakia, St. John the Revelator, he was banished to the Isle of Patmos. So banishment played a heavy thing. You know, when you go to the book of Ezra, right, then I'm going to go back to that article, right? This is the book of Ezra, chapter 7 and 26. It reads, "And whosoever will not do the law of thy God and the law of the king, let judgment be executed speedily upon him, whether it be unto death, or to banishment, or to confiscation of goods, or to imprisonment." Those are really the four types of punishment: death, banishment, confiscation of goods, or imprisonment. And that's what these brothers are having, being victimized, or, you know, pretty much waiting to go through if they don't leave in 60 days. Rather, it's confiscation of goods. They're forcibly going to be banished. Rather, they get put to death, right? We really don't know, right? Or imprisonment, right? So let's go back to this article, all right? Salaki, bear with me, right? Let's go back to this article we had. Where was we? Right? Let's see if we can go back to that. All right, Salaki, let's see. I got to go back and find the Salaki here. Bear with me. I meant to say 60 days. Okay, all right, here's another article, right? EnglishAlibrary.co.uk. Israel's Interior Ministry has ordered dozens of members of the Black Hebrew Israelite community to leave, despite many having been born in a Jewish state. So they were born there, right? Being their natural citizens, but they say, look, we don't give a damn. Y'all got to leave. Israeli authorities have ordered 45 members of the Black Hebrew Israelite religious community, and we're not a religious community. We are literally the Israelites according to the Bible, right? By blood, literally descending from our forefathers, the holy patriarchs, or the fathers of promise, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? Israeli authorities, and where's Israeli at in the Bible? It's not in there. This is something that they have made up. An Israeli is an inhabitant of that land, according to the so-called white man's modern day vernacular, right? Israeli authorities have ordered 45 members of the Black Hebrew Israelite religious community to leave the country after they attempted to formalize their status in the Jewish state, according to Haaretz's report on Monday. Israeli Interior Ministry, right, sent letters urging members of the community to leave within 60 days, despite some of them having been born in the Jewish state. Some of those ordered out of Israel have lived in the country for more than 20 years, right? And it reads, I was born here, raised here, and educated here, and I don't know any other place in the world. Yet Yetal Hercules 22 was quoted by Haaretz as saying, this is my home. Why should I have to leave my home? She added. And that is the home of the children of Israel, right? But technically, that's not your home right now. The Lord gave that land to the so-called white man for a certain dispensation of time. So if you going in that land and trying to fight and get property and get an inheritance in that land, it's not time for that, right? People that do that, they don't understand the prophecies. And I want to go to Luke. You know, they're upset, and they have a right to be upset. But then again, on a deeper level, they should understand through discernment that this thing was set up of old, that there are certain prophecies that still have to be fulfilled. And I want to get that in the book of Luke, right? Let me get that in Luke chapter 21, right? This is Luke chapter 21 and 24. It reads, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Right? So Jerusalem is being occupied by the Gentiles right now. Who are the Gentiles? Non-Israelites in this context. It's being trodden down. They have kosher swine's flesh. They got cigarettes. They have Tel Aviv, which is the gay capital of the world now. You have Amalekites in that land committing homosexuality, sucking blood off of little boy penises. So that place is wicked, man. But guess what? The Most High gave them that land for a certain dispensation of time. And on the earthly level, they stole it. But deeper, the Most High gave it to them, right? Let's get that in the book of Ezekiel. Actually, let's go to Isaiah chapter 1 and 7. Isaiah 1 and 7. Your country is desolate. Yeah, your country is not America. Your country is not Baltimore, Houston, Miami, London. Your country is the land of Israel, right? Yasha Allah. Your cities are burnt with fire. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate as overthrown by strangers. You got strangers overthrowing that land, walking all up and down your soil, pissing all in your land, offering swine's flesh in they damn altar, bowing down to the Wailing Wall, right? But the Lord set these things up, man, right? Let's go to the book of Ezekiel. Like, I didn't want this to be too long. This is Ezekiel chapter 36 and 5. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession, with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. So Idumea is really the Greco-Roman way of saying Edom, right? The Edomites, again, is the biblical name of the so-called white man. And the Lord said that they have appointed his land into their possession. So you think you can go up in that land and say, well, look, you know, I have a right to be here. I don't know anywhere else. You know, no, they said, no, look, they know the Lord gave them that land. They know that you're an Israelite. They know that you were sent to captivity on ships, right? They know the prophecy, but our people don't know. And the Lord is not dealing with that flee Babylon the Great doctrine, man. A lot of brothers, I can't take it in America. I want to leave. I want to go to the land of Israel. We have to go back to the land of Israel. We have to gather together as one and go back to the land. We have to keep all the feast days. Where's that at in the Bible? Didn't the Lord say in Micah chapter 4 where we will be delivered at? The Lord didn't say we all are going to be delivered in the land of Israel. The Lord said he would gather us from the north country and from the four winds of the earth. Read Isaiah chapter 11 on down, from Shinar, Pathros, Cush, right? Egypt, Assyria, right? Shinar, all these places were scattered abroad, right? The Lord is not going to tell us all to leave wherever we at, go to the land of Israel, then we're going to wait to be delivered. That's madness, man. Micah chapter 4 and 10. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. The Lord said we'll leave the land of Jerusalem. We'll be kicked out in 70 AD by the Flavian dynasty. We'll dwell in the field, pursuing to Matthew 13 and 38, other parts of the world, chiefly the land of Ham. We'll dwell in the field, and the Lord said we'll also even go to Babylon, right? It says there, meaning in Babylon the Great, which is the spiritual name of America, there shalt thou be delivered. There, in this location, there the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. So here's the place where we're going to be redeemed, right? We're going to be delivered out of the north country. Let's get that in Jeremiah, Salakia, right? Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 16 and 14. It reads, Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of the Egypt. But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north. So we're not going to really be talking about the first deliverance with Moses. We're not going to forget about it. But what this is saying is there's going to be a more significant and greater deliverance, not from ancient Egypt, but from modern day Egypt. Modern day Egypt is also known as the land of the north, which is America. Right? So verse 15 again in Jeremiah chapter 16. But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. So the Most High is going to take us out of this land and put us back in our own land. Let's get this in Isaiah chapter 13. Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 14. It reads, And this shall be as the chased roe. What's going on, bro? And as a sheep that no man taketh up, they shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. So you're going to have people that are going to do what? Go back into the original domicile where they're from. You're going to flee back to their own land. You have actual ambassadors from Russia, Ukraine, the Crimea region. They're actually going back to the land that they're from, right? Rather that's Russia, other parts of that land. You have American diplomats and people that come from the embassies and these ambassadors. They're telling them they have to go back to their own land. A lot of these Moabites that come to these schools out in the east coast of Babylon, the great, these Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, they're actually telling their people, look, go back to your own land, right? Because they understand that World War III and this different, this turmoil is brewing up in the air. And likewise, the Most High is actually setting that up as a mocking, because you have people who thought that they could escape the judgment by fleeing Babylon the Great. What's going on, bro? Oh, all praises. Kind of all praises, right? So you have these people who are leaving Babylon the Great, thinking that they can escape the judgment and go into their own place, right? Or going to the land of Israel. The Most High said that in Zephaniah the 3rd chapter, that his fire would devour the whole land, right? So you can't escape the curses. And Deuteronomy 28, you can't escape the judgment. If you're set up for this, not final destination, you can't cheat death. You got a lot of people leaving America, going to Africa, and going to the land of Israel because they don't want to deal with Jacob's trouble. Guess what? You still going to deal with it, man. Right? You can't escape the wrath of the Lord, man. Right? The Lord said in the book of Psalms, let's get this real quick. In Psalms chapter 115 and 3. Right? I'm going to close out in a minute. I'm going to get a few more. Psalms chapter 115 and 3. But our God is in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever he hath pleased. So the Lord do what he want to do. If he want to catch up with you, in the land of Israel because you decided to flee and not have faith, the Lord going to catch up with you. If you want to go to the land of Ham and, dwell amongst the Hamites, the Lord going to get up with you too. You can't escape the judgment of the Lord. Look what the Lord did to Jonah, right? And swallowed his ass up, man, and brought him back and made him do the work, right? The Lord said these curses shall overtake thee and pursue thee, right? So let's go back to this. All right, let's read on. Black Hebrew Israelites are groups of African Americans who believe they are the descendants of the ancient Israelites of the Bible. And we don't believe that, we know it, based off of Bible prophecy, right? I ought to do a cold cut going through 5 curses a day just to prove who these curses fit in Deuteronomy 28. The movement began, it's not a movement, this is an awakening, right? This is the Lord resurrect, this is a resurrection. Began in the late 19th century in the United States, however, later expanded to separate strands, right? Israel's Black Hebrew Israelite community first came together in Chicago in the 1960s under the leadership of Ben Carter, a preacher who later became known as Ben Ami Ben Israel, right? And there's history behind that. They only covered one aspect of this thing. Carter's followers settled in Israel in the 1960s and 90s, with many eventually receiving residency and citizenship. Some, however, did not receive citizenship or residency along with their fellow community members, and are now under a threat of having to leave. According to official Israeli population data, the community of Black Hebrews is made up of some 2,000 people who live mainly in southern city of Dimona. You see that? It reads, when the decision was made and their status in Israel was regularized, a list was drawn up of community members and their leaders, and whoever was on it indeed became a permanent resident. Israel's Population and Immigration Authority said in a written response to a community activist, applications made years afterward are examined on a case-by-case basis, and anyone asked to leave has in practice been living in Israel illegally for many years, the letter continued. An advocate for the group told Haaretz that there are around 100 members of the community still without legal status. Israeli authorities have contested that number, saying there are only a few dozen that remain without residency or citizenship. You see that? See that? Let's go to the book of Isaiah 10 and 1, right? See that? Kicking these brothers to their own land. These devils don't even need to be in that land, man. That's where the Most High going to raise up Russia, raise up Iran, and bomb these damn devils out that land, take us out of the captivity, and put us in our own land, man. Isaiah 10 and 1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And what will ye do in the day of visitation? So the Most High said these devils have unrighteous decrees, meaning they set up wicked laws, amendments, right? Statutes, which are not predicated off of the Torah, but off of their own belly, and is rooted within riches and deceit and pride, and is used to rob the fatherless of their homeland, used to deprive widows of a place of residency to stay. So the Most High said in verse 3, and what will ye do in the day of visitation, and of the desolation which shall come from far? To whom will ye flee for help, and where will ye leave your glory? So the Most High said, well, where you going to be at, man? You can't escape the judgment. You telling these real brothers to escape and flee and go back somewhere where they've been spending their life 20 plus years. So what you going to do when the Most High get up with you, man? So again, this is unrighteous decrees, man, right? Israel orders 45 Black Hebrew Israelites to leave, man. But with that, I'm going to close up, giving all honor and glory to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Kwamalak Yabashai. Most High willing, you was edified. Kwam Yashala. Shalom.